Okay, this is my custom Dell XPS 400, and you might say, well, hey, I got a custom Dell, it's no big deal, I went onto their website and I customized the crap out of mine. Yeah, not quite as custom as this one. Why, you ask? Well, let's do a little exploring. This is a Dell XPS 400. It's a BTX form factor. It's a Pentium dual core, which is actually basically just a stripped down Core 2 Duo. Okay, so let's start off by saying that this computer, when I got it, had coffee spilled into the intake fan, and coffee blew through the BTX intake all over the motherboard. Fried the motherboard. Yeah, that really sucked. So then I had to, when I got it, I had to take the entire thing apart, everything off of this case. And I do mean everything, every part you can imagine. Took them all off, washed the inside of the case out, soaked the fans in water, and, you know, then washed them out like by hand as good as I possibly could. They came out really, you know, pretty decent. Anyways, so when I ordered the new motherboard, I knew I was going to have to do some hardware mods, and let's begin. One of the first hardware mods that I had to do, so right here, that is the I/O plate, and I had to cut out, show you right there, I had to cut out the old I/O plate because it was actually, there was no plate there. I mean, it was just one solid piece of aluminum built into the case, which really sucks. You know, that's one reason why I don't like Dell, and I don't like proprietary hardware setups. Like, you know, BTX was Intel's proprietary hardware setup, and it was a really epic failure. I mean, seriously, nothing good about it. Anyway, so I started off by cutting out the back I/O plate. Super. Then I had to get a 24-pin cable extension because the power supply was not long enough to reach down to there on the motherboard where the normal BTX pinout would be. So, yeah, that was kind of lame. I did get a Intel, a standard Intel motherboard for this XPS 400, and it is actually a D945GCZ BTX board. Now, BTX is a form factor. ATX versus BTX. Yeah, BTX is terrible, and they don't make it anymore because it was complete crap. Well, I mean, it had some good ideas going, but the fact that, like, I had to do this much hardware mods to put my own motherboard in is complete crap. And okay, so to get the front panel to work, you know, like the wonderful power switch and all that crap, they had it going to a proprietary Dell super wide 40-pin cable, and I had to adapt that cable, well, rewire it to a 4x2 brick. Yeah, there's the rewire, and see, I had to tape the rest of it off because the wires kind of weren't quite long enough. I would have had to split that into 3 bricks because normally it would be, you know, the LED and the power switch and reset button go into one block, and then the USB ports go into one block, and then the audio goes into another block. So that I would have had to split that into 3 blocks. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough cable there to do that. And I was done testing things with my multimeter just after I found the power switch and LED. I said, well, screw it, good enough, it works. Yeah, so this board has onboard video, and I disabled that because onboard video is crap, and I'm loading Windows 7 on here, so I needed something a little more powerful. So I slapped a my ATI X300 in here. It's just enough to run Aero, so nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. Yeah, the BTX form factor, terrible form factor. Yeah, and then when I got all that done, the fan, the BTX fan, when I turned it on, would run at full speed, and it sounded like a freaking tornado in your room, and it was very unpleasant. So then I had to get really creative and wire in a actual fan controller, and you can see it right there. And yeah, I just I have it like black taped the wires together right now. I'll go back and solder that and clean it up a little bit. But yeah, so that fan controller, there's the fan control speed knob back there. Pretty sweet. There's the wireless in card that I put in this thing, because the first wireless card that I was going to slap in this thing actually didn't have support for Windows 7 64-bit, so I had to yank it and get a new card for it. So I figured, why not upgrade it to wireless in. Cool. I think that's about all the mods that I had to do to go into this thing. I also I put some new RAM in there. It's DDR800. It doesn't actually run at DDR800. It runs at DDR667 or DDR666. Yeah, it just runs with much tighter timings, so it still gets a speed boost out of it. Oh yeah, and I put a new longer SATA cable in there. That red one right there. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. But as you can see, that's like super ridiculous for you know, just to put a new BTX motherboard into this case. Yeah, I don't think you should have to do, you know, that much hardware modding. Should not have to happen. That's why BTX failed. That's why you know, ATX form factor is so much better. It's very universal. You know, lots of different manufacturers can make different parts for it, and it all, you know, pretty much works. I'm not going to say 100%, but pretty much. Yeah, with BTX, see, you have the intake here, straight through. Anyways, that's the air intake, goes into that fan right there, goes through the heatsink right there, and you can kind of see the back of the heatsink in there. Yeah, and it's ideally, you know, it blows all the air straight out the back of the case. Not a super bad design, but the way it all worked out in the end was pretty terrible. And they also had to stick the RAM up above, and it's not getting quite as much airflow up there. Ideally, they said it was supposed to, you know, run the RAM cooler, but I kind of don't believe that you're getting any benefit from sticking the RAM up there than sticking the RAM where it is in an ATX case. Also, the other thing is they couldn't make all the RAM traces on the motherboard equal length to the processor, so that really screwed with RAM timings and high-speed RAM. So yeah, that, in the end, that is partially why BTX was completely scrapped, is because they could not make all the traces on the board the same length to go to the CPU, whereas with ATX they can. They're all equal length. Get the most speed out of your RAM. Push the hardware as fast as possible. So yeah. I think that pretty much covers all the mods I did. Oh, I also I lapped the processor and heatsink because they were both had some air pockets in them that were kind of scaring me. And I also took the heatsink off the motherboard, and I put some Arctic Silver 5 in between that heatsink and the North Bridge on there. So it should definitely run quite a bit cooler than it would otherwise. Yep, so custom, true custom Dell XPS 400, and yeah, the average user is not going to be able to do some of these hardware mods, and even if they can, they probably don't want to. I can tell you that I will not be doing any more BTX hardware mods ever again. Yep, not gonna happen. No, not gonna happen. I am absolutely thoroughly pissed off with the BTX form factor. So, yep, maybe this will, push computer companies, especially Dell here, to maybe use less proprietary form factors in the future, and also not use proprietary pinouts for stuff, as simple as the power button and the front panels and stuff. They should just use the standard pinouts because it makes sense. And 10 years later, when Dell stops making the frickin' motherboard for this thing and you have to replace it, you don't want to go through that much hell. You just throw it away and buy a new computer. I actually did all this, put a lot of time, effort, and money into it, and I'm actually just giving it away to a family member that needs a newer computer. So, yep. Anyways.